So hi everyone. Everybody that follows me over on social media or at AnandTech will know that I'm no longer work there. I decided to quit a couple of weeks ago, and I'm here to tell you about my new venture. What's your minimum specification? So for those of you who are new to the channel, welcome. My name's Ian, and I've been a technology journalist for the past 11 years. I started at AnandTech back in January 2011. That's when I formally took on the senior motherboard editor role, just as the launch of Sandy Bridge was happening. And in that role, I was essentially a freelancer. The way Anand worked in AnandTech back then is that pretty much everyone was a freelancer. You did a review, you got paid per review, and every freelancer essentially was in charge of their own segment of content. So at that time, I was purely focused on motherboards, and I did that for about 4 to 5 years. In my peak year, I think I reviewed somewhere in the region of 55 motherboards during that year. Each of those reviews, going up to 10,000 words, trying to dive really deep into the intricacies of the motherboard business. Went on lots of events, CES, Computex, even helped out at events like MWC, IFA, IEEE events I believe I started going to around then, supercomputing, IDF. And then around that time, Anand of AnandTech left to go to Apple, and AnandTech was acquired by a company called Purch. Purch was a media organization that also owned other brands like Tom's Hardware, Laptop Mag, Tom's Guide. And through that, Ryan Smith became editor-in-chief of AnandTech, and I got essentially promoted to a full-time role, a salaried employee, albeit in the UK, and I did that for about another 5-6 years. As Anand left, I took on the senior CPU editor role. I believe at the time that Anand had left, I was kind of essentially doing that for about a year already. And then through the time at Purch was acquired by Future. Future owns TechRadar, among other brands. Future ballooned to about 800 employees when we were acquired. It's now at about 3,000. It is a media organization that does web, that does print, it does events. It has, aspects of video creation for advertisers. And one of the big things that both Purch and Future had is this sort of like customized ad bidding system. However, AnandTech was a very small cog in that machine, so much so that, investment was hard to come by. And I won't go into the details of what happened in Future. But it was clear that over my time there, it was becoming, while I loved the job, while I loved the travel, I loved talking to people, I loved meeting companies, I loved going to events, AnandTech was in a situation where we were losing people, losing freelancers such as Andre, such as Billy. Andre did our smartphone coverage, Billy did our storage coverage. These people weren't being replaced. I was doing a little bit more than usual, and after a while it does kind of grate a little, to the point where I was actually looking through all the content I've done in the past 10 years, and last year was actually one of my least productive years out of the last 10. So on the back of all of that, and speaking to a few colleagues in the industry, I made the decision to hand in my notice, which at the time was about 2 months' notice I had to give. The goal at the end of it is what this video is about. Now, if you know about the tech media space, you'll know that there are independent websites out there. There are websites owned by publishers like AnandTech, like Tom's Hardware. Then obviously you have the video, the YouTube, which is what you're watching me through now. Above all that, there is another form of, it's not called media, it's called Analyst. And the analyst space is a little bit different. Analysts are typically, veterans of the space. They go out, they have partnerships with companies to help them with marketing, for when it comes to white papers, when it comes to mouthpiecing, when it comes to analysis. It's a different arrangement to the traditional media, the traditional journalist role. And typically what we see with people who do so long in journalism, whether it's technology or other spaces, is that they tend to go work for the companies that they write about. So, for example, the previous senior motherboard editor at AnandTech went to work for ASUS. Anand went to work for Apple. A lot of AnandTech people went to work for Apple. There's Razer. We've got Scott Wasson went to AMD, now Intel. Ryan Shrout went to Intel. If you follow others in the Twitter sphere, you'll see that media eventually go to work. A lot of media go to work at the companies, but a few of them become analysts. Now, I know there was a rumor that I was going to go join Linus. That's a little joke we put together for you all. I hope you don't mind it too much. But Linus knew after I announced that I was leaving that I'm going to become an analyst, or more specifically, an analyst influencer. Now, what does that mean? So, in traditional tech media, whether that's written, whether that's web, whether that's YouTube, your fundamental monetary earning comes through ads, or through affiliate sales, or through some form of sponsored content. With an analyst, it's a little different. You essentially become contractors to the companies in the industry, whether that's assisting them with marketing materials, whether that's writing white papers, whether that's providing perspective in the industry. There's a whole lot that analysts do, some of which I'm still working out. Some of them are public-facing, some of them are not public-facing, for example. If you ever heard of, say, Patrick Moorhead, he's one of the most well-known analysts in this space. You have technology analysts, you have financial analysts. The financial analyst, that's an even separate, different market, because that focuses on something different to the technology, sometimes anyway. What I plan to do with me going forward is that I'm starting up my own analyst firm, and it's going to be called morethanmoore. This is a quick logo. Whether it's the final logo or not, we'll see. I'm in the process of setting up the company. And the whole point is there is a avenue in the analyst industry that is ripe for taking advantage of, to be honest. So most analysts nowadays, most tech analysts, play in the analyst/written space, whether they've come from journalism or whether they've come from industry or whether they're from one of the big analyst firms, one of the big market research firms. Very few, if any, properly do video. Now, if you've been following the channel for a couple of years, it's actually been now almost a couple of years it's been up and running, you'll know that I've been slowly learning how this video thing works, and it's very different to written, let me tell you. But I want to move into that sort of analyst influencer space. So right now, or at least with AnandTech, I was kind of do 80% AnandTech, 20% YouTube. I kind of still want to do that 80-20 split with my analyst firm moving forward. This means I still want to report on the latest announcements, releases, but I also want to spend my time focusing on the engineering, the research, the interviews. Part of being the written journalist under a publisher means you have to do things like Black Friday, and you have to run to deadlines, and there's all sorts of internal corporate things that you have to manage. Being an independent analyst influencer means I get to control exactly what I do, when, how much. It's for my mental health. And for my physical health, I hope it's a lot better for me. But my plan going forward is to work with the companies that we all know and talk about, and perhaps introduce a few new companies to you all, whether that's through helping them with their internal internal marketing, internal technical dissection, whether that's producing sponsored content externally in the form of, technology showcases or white papers and white paper videos, or whether that's interviews. I want to be able to focus on elements of the industry that help you all understand what exactly goes on. For the longest time, part of what I've wanted to do in this job is just peel back that, black box curtain. It's not just money goes in, product comes out. It's about people. It's about ideas. It's about research. It's about targets. It's about bending the laws of physics and finding the best way to do that. Not only the best way to do it, but the best way to explain it to you all. Now, part of what made me go down this route is that over the years, even as a journalist, I've been doing some sort of analyst typey roles. For example, I've had companies reach out to me a month before a product launch, a month before press briefings, and say, look, here's our slide deck. What do you think of it? What are we missing? What questions would you have? Do you have any comments? And I would go through the slide deck and they'd present it to me, and I'd be like, well, this doesn't make sense. It would be helpful if you had this written on this slide to, make it more of a complete explanation, or here are the questions you might have, and this is how you would answer them. This is a question you might get, and this is how you get around having that question asked. Or product names. There's been a few CPUs over the years with weird names, and some of them I've been able to convince companies to change, just so they actually make a little bit more sense. That's kind of part of the role of the analyst, being able to work with multiple different companies at the same time, and they trust that you keep that sort of independent view if you're working with competitors and such. So the big name companies I'm hoping to work with on an extended basis. I've already had some startups reach out to me who have got really exciting technology that I think could do really well if it gets the right audience and the right interest. I also want to be honest with them, and I still want to be honest with you. So the channel is staying around. The channel is staying with the name TechTechPotato. I don't think that's going to change. But the analyst company of More Than More, I chose the name because the next 10, 20, 30 years, it was all about how we go beyond Moore's Law. And if you've seen my recent interview with Raja Kaduri, if it's up yet, it may be up later this week, is talking about, building the best strategy to go beyond the current Moore's Law limits, or Moore's Law's growth. Let's go above and beyond that. And even if you search for More Than More online, lots of companies talking about finding the next paradigm in computing and bringing it to market. This is what I want to help explain through More and More, either internally or externally. A funny story, actually. I've had engineers over the years say that they understand their own products better through reading or watching my content than they have through their internal communications. So that's what I mean by mouthpiecing. I want to be able to help these companies explain their own products to their own employees better, both internally and externally to the wider audience. Again, that comes in the form of assisting with marketing in terms of sponsored content, white papers, white videos. I want to do the things that really make me excited to be in this industry. And unfortunately, CPU buyer's guides ain't it. And hopefully through the medium of video, which I'm beginning to really love, and I really do watch too much YouTube, I do want to talk about a lot more. I know some of you have been asking more about the financial market. Some of you have been asking more about semiconductor research. Some of you have been asking about AI processors. I've got so many AI processor companies that want to speak, that want to tell me how they're doing, what they're doing, and why they're doing it. That is a rabbit hole I could easily go down. And hopefully being my own boss, running my own company, if it gets big enough, maybe having additional people on board to help. It's all enabled, through you guys helping with a channel. And if you work at one of the companies that I've been covering for the last 10 or more years, then please reach out if you think there's a way we can collaborate, conduct business together. And basically, I'm here to help. I mean, I'm here to help for a fee, but that's, how I get paid. But I'm here to help. So hopefully you'll all come on this journey with me. I am doing looking into some additional sort of content outlets, whether that's through having a newsletter or, like a Substack or a Ben Thompson-esque writing blog. That's another angle that could be going down. I'm going to start helping out the guys over at Chips and Cheese. They're doing some really good work. So I want to kind of be an advisor to them if they've got any questions or they want any input into any of their work, or whether it's collaborating with other YouTubers or other media organizations, whether it's PC World guys or whether that's the next platform. I've got lots of ideas on where to take this, both on the analyst side and the influencer side. And yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to it. And I hope you all come with me.